Hey y'all, it's Jonesy again, expounding about more things he's not sure of. Some things pressing, others lax. I don't ever really worry about it. I am sure the intended message is not always conveyed. I'm even more sure the information is taken and used and sometimes abused by those who I know listen. We must remember the first weapon you have is your mouth, not your mind. Your mind is a war room more than a weapon. It is the place where the idea of plan of action, courses to be taken, things like that therein. That is where this comes from. And I only bring this up because it is pressing me that I say this. I number one am not ashamed of myself, but upset with myself at the inability to send home the point that it is that I seek to send home. Last night, I had a wonderful conversation with these Gentiles, and unlike many of us that sit in the skin that I wear, not that I proudly call them Gentiles, but I just openly call them Gentiles, and I don't have a problem with it. And they seem to accept it. My candor and my demeanor is not overwhelming. This is why sometimes you have a problem listening to me on your smaller devices because the speaker in it is not very, very powerful. And I don't speak very, very loud unless I'm angry or I'm excited. The two could be the same. I worked so much not to get angry as it is just to stay excited. However, I said to a man last night, because he said to me, I used to be a Christian and a Mason. I said, well, they can't be. I said, you can't be both because the you can, but you can't. In an ideal practice, ideally, a real Christian would actually follow the what the statutes, the laws, right on. It wouldn't just be, what I'm talking about, like so. A Mason who realistically I could base the first Mason I could probably call Paul, you know, talking with big brother Sergeant Ben Judah over there across the seas, you know, and I've just been picking up so much from that brother. He's probably really some type of dormant genius, you know what I mean? But like that's neither here nor there. Uh, uh, but I've learned a extraordinarily amount of information from this man pertaining Paul, which is why I'm going back to him. This is a expound of different measures. I want to bring different things in and just speak and just as I sit here and go over this with you, I just want it to be free. There doesn't need to be a subject. There doesn't have to be a subject. Why not just talk and let it flow? That's the problem with people. They're looking for something. I can't stress to you enough. I don't have a point to prove. I'm just trying to give you what I think is helpful information. If you use it, good for you. If you don't, good for you. Maybe it saved you not listening to me. Who knows? Um, I can only say there is no way that I could possibly foresee doing what I've done. You asked me 2 years ago when this is before I was making videos, and I was just pondering the idea. And, a lot of people don't really ask me, why'd you start doing this? And I'm kind of glad they don't, because it makes this Expound really special. Because I just talked to brother, James, and we were talking. And that's Sergeant Ben Judah, just in case y'all didn't know. I don't mean to throw you out there, brother, but say your name, your regular name, that's okay. But we had this conversation, and we were speaking, and it was as if it dawned on me, these things first with these revelations of Paul and how his mindset is totally destructive, and then more so into the direction and line of just how the faith had all these roadblocks and these failures, and it creates this failure atmosphere. That is what Christianity does. And this is what I've taken from him, whether or not I've ever spoken this to him, and that this atmosphere that it's created has made it to where what it does is it funnels the people out. And there's like this revolving door concept where the yearning to be in a relationship with the being that is truly the most powerful thing ever. Once again, I cannot stress conscious, magnetic, omnipresent force. Yeah. YHWH. And all the rest of the letters. I cannot stress it enough. And this relationship they're seeking to build upon and to grow and to nurture, so that way it may manifest into something truly fruitful. I say that they are drawn back into these areas where they are hearing what not just sounds good, but seems right. Well, if I build my house on a foundation that is a strong foundation, but then I use rotted beams and things like that of that nature, the other parts of the house that go into actually constructing the infrastructure, and that create the compartmental spaces, one has to bode that eventually there's a corrosion that happens. And if this happens, then one leaves this environment and then they go to another one. And when they do this, they are only outside for so long until they feel the need, the desire to be within doors again, or to be within walls, to be sheltered. Do you understand? So it is not that they are not strong mentally, it's just that living outside, though people do it, the lowest of the low people understand that living within a tent outside is still more formidable than living outside in the elements itself. If this is not in your mind, I cannot force that upon you. I simply only bold these things once again, that maybe they help you, maybe they don't. But I'm saying them. Has it ever occurred to anyone, ever, that these possessions and these happenings of possession that take place within the New Testament are so isolated that one has to wonder what unleashed the mechanism where in which all these people became possessed? Right. And then has anyone ever actually read the Bible and perceived that there was a time when kingdoms didn't fight each other? Like, has anybody actually ever saw that? Like, these intermediate periods of time when they're not fighting, it's not because they're trying to mount up their offenses, or there's legitimate periods of time where you could argue the bloodlines of the legitimate people were actually in control, or they were vying for control, versus these outler outer. Here I go. Outer outer bloodline parties. I won't say them that they're outer worldly because their origins are still worldly and earthly. I have to contend something to you. Would it be impossible that the Most High God made female angels, seeing that there are female spirits? If not, there isn't. But if so, is it possible that some of these female angels procreated with the regular people that were on this planet and gave them children? I only bring this up because we're taught to look at it from the angle of the children from the father's side and not the maternal side. So we're never really told this maternal struggle, which does take place all throughout the scripture. I only say this because they bring a character like Ruth, who has her own book, mind you, within the word, and she's a Moabite, mind you. So when this is the case, and then people don't look at the book as it's not just an Israelite history, it's an overall Hebrew history, and it caters to the Israelites because this is about the deity that no one, and when I say no one, I mean no one on this planet thought to worship because it was not seen. So this idea of making images to forbade people to make images, right, of the like sort, and so that way the embodiment of the power of these beings is not within these images. We all understand, or we should understand to some degree, the level of complicated algorithm, if you will, when it comes to symbology. So if we can apply that from symbology to something else, you see, to a higher facet, where in which one has to acknowledge these things before they even actually can be encountered in the mindset that would be conducive to taking it on as such. All I'm trying to say is this: is we don't ever pay homage to the fact that Moses' mother raised him for the first 12 years of his life. And it was set up like that by the father of Moses, it seems, because his sister worked with the Pharaoh. Pharaoh's sister or daughter, however, but she worked in the palace. So the whole point is this, is that you have this character whom, when she sees this baby, I have to not assume, but I have to presume in my mind that not only do I believe that there was a difference in some of the skin tone with some of the Egyptians, and not only do I believe that some of the people that were being considered Egyptians were not actually truly Egyptians, but they were Shemitic people under the banister of Egyptian, just like Shemitic people under the banister of a Canaanite. So, and this right here, I bowed because the lower Egypt was said to have housed, which was actually the northern part of Egypt, to have housed these Shemitic kings who, once again, I would only presume that they went under some banister of Egyptian. With that contended and boded, this man Moses was raised by his mother for the first 12 years of his life. It gives credence to how he would know his sister and his brother. They probably all have the same parents. I can't prove that because I can't think of a time in the scripture where I've read in the Exodus that this is his sister or his brother solely through one specific parent. But I do know that they're mentioned as his brother and his sister. And his brother and sister are both prophet and prophetess. The old school term for this is seer. We are going to go right now to Google and we're going to look it up. And Google's going to tell us the very intelligent, very ever oh so intelligent thing of what a seer used to be. And I have put in seer right here. The definition is one who is supposed to be able through supernatural insight to see what the future holds. One moment. A person who sees something specified. One moment. Let's go ahead and keep going down. These are just some of the definitions. One moment. Dictionary.com. A person who prophesizes future events. A prophet. I love it. Do y'all see why I go to so many? I go through the struggle. A person who sees, observer, which is the first one. I read the second one first just to show y'all that they understand. A person endowed with profound moral and spiritual insight or knowledge. A wise person or sage who possesses intuitive powers. That's number 3. Number 4, a person who is reputed to have special powers of divination as a crystal gazer or palmist. I am telling you right now. Listen, I am telling you right now. You cannot be so sure what it is that you don't know what the practices are. When it tells you that these people are wizards, they are like the doctors of the old day. They were giving people any and everything, and here, take this and tell me what it does. And then people would get these abominable, grotesque side effects, sometimes killing them, sometimes mutating them totally different. So we have to understand that when we see things like Toxic Avenger or a movie like that, that these concepts cannot be too far off, that somebody may have gave somebody something that totally mutated them because it radiated their body to such a degree that their cell composition was able to maintain integrity and yet live, but it was degraded in such a way that the physical appearance of this person was now obviously altered forever, never to be changed. These are, maybe they gain abilities, but these are things that you have to ponder in your mind. Once again, I feel like this is very important. I feel like these kinds of conversations, just general broad strokes and deep detail about it. I understand that if I read an entire chapter to you, that would be an entire chapter right then and there. But I also understand that there has to be a deliverance. Once again, well, that's all it is that there has to be a reciprocity from giver to taker, taker to giver, lender to borrower, however you want to say it, right? Right? Because if you lend me information and I borrow it for that moment, right? But if you give me the information and I take it, I don't owe you anything per se in that same mind frame of thinking. Not an iota or modicum, however you want to put it. Nothing, not the slightest subatomic particle. Do you understand? And with that said, one has to also contend that with not owing anyone anything, is your actions are reciprocation sometimes. Inactivity, not doing anything, can be more violent in a way than actually taking action. I'll give you one. A man thinks of a way to overcome an injury, and he says, you know what, instead I'll just wait. And he waits, and he does a specific way of waiting. And then when he goes to the doctor says, well, what have you been doing? The man says, well, I've been doing this, this, and this. And he says, well, you know what's crazy about that? Your injury is healing 6 weeks faster than anticipated. Your relative sedentary, yet still somehow active activity was able to mend at a much faster rate this wound. They could give you the technical name, this, that, and the other. And then they might even be like, the chances of this happening for you are 1 in 2,000. So we don't even tell people about it because it's something that happens so rarely that which 1 in 2,000 is actually a very good number when you think about it. When you think about the broad number of people there are, but 1 in 2,000 doesn't sound good to a person when they're speaking on recovery and this, that, and the other. So when I speak, I'm not speaking it just to say it. I'm speaking it so that way there can be reciprocity, that I can give you something that you can take from this. I give people things that they take from me all the time. And it's weird because you don't know what to say to people. Once again, if I told y'all how often I had to shrug off that P word that people try to throw at you every once in a while. Leave me alone. I'm just Meech. Can I just be Demetrius? Is that okay? I just want to be him. Is that all right? You know? You know? I just I don't believe I'm working with anything special. I said it in my other channel, and Love is Not a Game, and I said it ever so seriously that I am a skilled copycat. I have learned the ability to mimic and imitate at such a level that you might seem skillful, but it's really not. And at best, the best person is an extremely skilled copycat. I cannot contend that I know anything different or more. I can only contend that I have taken the time to look at it differently and put forth a thought while it was thought of differently and voiced it. That's it. I am not contending that I know what I'm talking about for sure, but I believe what I'm saying. And that should mean something to you, because I don't live by my works alone. I do live in my faith. But the faith that I live in justify the works, and the works justify the faith. I don't do anything for no reason. I don't say anything for no reason. The other day, something happened, and it was like it turned on a switch in me that hasn't been like this in a long time. And I feel so motivated, this extreme level of motivation. And I'm trying to hone in this energy so that way we can bring down this man Paul once and for all. I say we as in all of us, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to fold up the compartments of this Judeo-Christian murderer man. I am going to pull together and show you why would this man Barabbas, I'm sorry, a murderer of the same ilk, as they call it or whatever, as this man Paul. And you mean to tell me that Paul's a murderer, people. Paul is a murderer. He's a lying, cheating murderer. And he doesn't care about anybody but himself. That's the truth. That's the truth. I'm not lying to you right now. I wouldn't lie to you. This is going to be a very long journey. It has been almost 2 years already, and I can't believe it. Getting ready to drop a follow-up to the Pacific and the Angel DNA, a real follow-up. The one I had dropped I don't think people really appreciated that one. That's okay. I'm going to take a lot of information from that one, a lot of like the giant stuff and like the Native American stuff. Ooh. But I'm going to make this third one about this. There's a connection. And I'm not saying like facetiously, like, yeah, white people come from black people, but I mean like, even if you thought of it from like a maternal point of view, at some point, unless they're truly the seed of angelic host only, and then bred in with and spliced genetics of like an animal on this planet, and then bred in with like the seed of the angelic host, and they're only unnatural. And I mean, I'm trying to conceive that, I just can't. So I would have to presume that they have some sort of normal human stock to their equity. And this goes to most people, not all of them. But with that said, I would like to say that I do feel that these people do seed from the first creation. The first creation were black, right? So they're not wrong all the way about it. They're just not right all the way about it, and how they portray it is not correct. Before we go, I want to read to you evolution within the Bible. This is evolution. I'm going to step by step break it down as I read it to you so that way you understand that I am not seeking to, in any way, shape, or form, pull a fast one. Verse 1, Genesis 1. In the beginning, God made the heaven and the earth. But the earth was unsightly and unfurnished, and darkness was over the deep, and the Spirit of God moved over the water. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided between the light and the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the water, and let it be a division between water and water." So this is the whole idea of the heavens. If the heavens was not there, the water that's being held up that you look at every day would fall on you. Anyway. And God made the firmament, and God divided between the water which was under the firmament and the water which was above the firmament. Thank you. And God called the firmament heaven. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the second day. And God said, "Let the water which under the heaven be collected into one place, and let all the dry land appear." And it was so. Now, one moment. In astronomy, they will try to teach you about how when galaxies are born or something like that, there's massive explosion from a possible black hole that has consumed so much energy, this, that, and the other, and that there's spinning balls of molten energy that are elliptical shaped that are spitting pieces off, and somehow these things, planets that landed in order. However, I'm not contending that. This is a much more logical thing. It sounds much more logical that something with the power and the ability to do just that did that. So with that said, and one only asks, well, what was before the heaven and the earth? I don't know, and I don't worry about it. Deuteronomy 29:29. And I say that right there just to say that as the land appears in astronomy, they will tell you that it's molten for however many years, and it spindles, and then it eventually cools down, and that earthquakes and things like that happen, and all these violent things take place, and then that's how it all happens, right? So apparently, if it's saying like here, and God said, "Let the water which is under the heaven be collected into one place, and let the dry land appear," it seems as if it was collected and put into one place. And it was so. And the water which was under the heaven was collected into its places. There you go. Come on. And the dry land appeared. So that means that it was collected. That means that there's an idea for this. You understand that? It's not just by random formation. Okay. One moment. This is evolution, y'all. And the water which was under the heaven was collected into its place, and the dry land appeared. Verse 10. And God called the dry land earth. So this is when earth was actually named. Okay? You understand that? This is when it was spoke on before, it was a prelude to what was happening, but this is the happening of that happening. One moment. And God called the dry land earth, and the gatherings of its waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. And every time it mentions something specifically, like night, day, and as it says heaven for the first time, and as it says earth for the first time, and as it says sea for the first time, all those begin with capital letters. And I just wanted to point that out to you, so that way, like, it's saying that these are specifics. And God saw that, and God called the dry land earth, and the gatherings of the water he called seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth herb of grass, bearing seed according to its kind." Herb of grass. Thank you very much. That's key here. According to its kind. And did it say fruit first? No, it said the herb of grass, according to its kind, and according to its likeness, and the fruit tree, bearing fruit, whose seed is in it, according to its kind, on the earth. And it was so. Let me stop for a moment. So this is obviously the watering of the planet, the separation of the planet, the clay formation, these trees, obviously the makeup of the water plus whatever earth is actually made out of, created the genetic constitution for trees, what we call wood, right? All these things and this is how it happens. And then there's different genuses of plants, so they all have their own families and genetic structures as well. And this should be noted, this is an evolution thing, right on? So I'm not being crazy right now. I'm not being flip with you. And the earth brought forth the herb of grass, according to its kind, and according to its likeness, and the fruit tree, whose seed is in it, according to its kind, on earth. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the third day. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of heaven, to give light upon the earth, right? Of course, to divide between night and day. And I just had to say, of course, because you have to understand, is the Most High knows that he's about to create living things on it. So he understands that they need to have the ability to see, function, and move around. That's all I'm saying. Okay, of course, on top of a few other things, but we'll move forward. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of heaven, to give light upon the earth, to divide between day and night. So this is where the light of the world comes from, actually, from heaven. The light of the world is from heaven. That's where it comes from. Anyway, let's keep reading. Evolution. We're about to be at the animals. Verse 15. And let them be for light in the firmament of heaven, so as to shine upon the earth, and it was so. And God made the two great lights, the greater light for regulating the day, and the lesser light for regulating the nights. For regulating the night. The stars also. One moment. So are you hearing this? There was only one medium of light before this. There was only one level of light. And when it was obviously light, dark out, it was completely black. It was completely black. So this is almost like you're hearing the Most High like scratch stuff off his list and like add things to it. Like, okay, like as he's thinking of how he's going to create the creation that he's going to create. However, let's carry on. Verse 17. And God placed him in the firmament of heaven, so as to shine upon the earth, and to regulate day and night, and divide between the light and the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning. Here we are. And God said, verse 20, and God said, and there was evening, and there was morning, the fourth day. And God said, let the waters bring forth reptiles having life. Let's stop right there for one moment. No, let's hit it. And winged creatures flying above the earth and the firmament of heaven. Let the waters bring forth reptiles having life, and winged creatures. Everything comes from the water. Woo! Did you ever catch that, people? Did you ever catch that? That means that everything probably had web footing at one time. We're going to move on. And God said, let the waters bring forth reptiles having life, and winged creatures flying above the earth and the firmament of heaven. And it was so. And God made great whales, and every living reptile, which the waters brought forth according to their kinds, and every creature that flies with wings according to its kinds. And God saw that they were good. It is confirmation. Listen, you were told about evolution, about how there was fishes or whatever, right? Well, the reptile comes in small fish-looking forms too, but that's not what I'm getting at. Listen to how the reptile lives on land too, right? So they told you that the reptile was first it was a fish, or first it was a DNA cell, then it was a jellyfish, and then from a jellyfish to a fish, then from a fish to like a lizard that walked on land, then from like a lizard to like a bird, and then do you get where I'm going with all this though? So do you see how it moves into the progression? This is the evolution right here, real evolution. This is how it really happened, y'all. These things are perpetual and gradual and what are they? Sequencing events. And they have to fall in line in such order. So that way a person like me reading it, it can make sense to them. Otherwise it could be written all jumbled up and wouldn't make any sense. Not to me, at least. One moment. And God, verse 22. And God blessed them, saying, increase and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let the creatures that fly be multiplied on the earth. Ooh, see, there we go. Right on. So, two different mandates. One of you will fill up the earth, start to, which are the flying creatures, which that's any flying creature, yo. You have to get outside of the shallow thinking. Any animal could have been clean and been flying. There's no way to tell, and there's no way of knowing. Here we go. Verse 22, and God blessed them, saying, increase, and it's a blessing, he said, obviously, increase and multiply, fill the waters in the seas, and let the creatures that fly be multiplied on the earth. And there was evening, and there was morning, the fifth day. And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature according to its kind, quadrupeds and reptiles, and wild beasts of the earth, according to their kind. And it was so. And God made the wild beasts of the earth according to their kind, and cattle, according to their kind, and all the reptiles of the earth. So there's two different classifications of reptiles. Let's go ahead and break that down too. And all the reptiles of the earth according to their kind. And God saw that they were good. Bam. So this is all the things once again. So you can think of any beast right now. And here we go, right? So we go from bird to damn old rat to dog, whatever. You see what I'm saying? Eventually to some kind of chimpanzee, Australopithecus. And then here we go. Verse 26, and God said, let us make man according to our image and likeness. Well, I have to stress right here so many different little things. The image and the likeness are huge, because one is what we look like, and two, it's how we're made after. Right on? Function follows the form. Form does not follow function. Right. How it is made dictates what it does. Man, can't stress that enough. Cannot stress that enough. Otherwise, the flesh would have never been able to be corrupted. Anyhow, I won't even go into that. We're going to finish off right here. Verse 26. And God said, let us make man according to our image and likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the flying creatures of heaven. Hold on. Not just of heaven. Listen, over all the cattle and all the earth, and over all the reptiles that creep on the earth. So it is implicative that the animals that fill the earth that were flying creatures were actually flying creatures of heaven. But I rest my case. What? It wouldn't have dominion over a pigeon too, but he got dominion over a dragon or something, or a griffin or whatever. I don't know. You see what I'm saying? Like, it just, you have to ask yourself those kind of questions. Like, really, like, ask yourself that. Like, does this make any sense compared to this? If it doesn't, you got to let that go. Very last part. And we're going to pick up again. And let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the flying creatures of heaven, and over the cattle, and all the earth, and over the reptiles that creep on the earth. So it's just saying, like, the control factor. Once again, the function followed the form of this to have dominion. Can you dig it? The other animals weren't made to have dominion, listen, over the fish of the seas, over everything, because their forms don't give them the dominion to travel to these places and to do these things, like to get in the water or to get on top of a thing that's taking flight. Like they can be anywhere, land, air, sea. But we're not even going to get into that. Anyhow, before all the nonsense starts to happen, I just wanted to say that it has been an honor and a blessing just to be your regular brother, good old Demetrius Antoine Jones, born January 14th, 1991, at I want to say like 1:11 a.m. or I mean 1:11 a.m. something like that. Yeah, it was really early in the morning. Anyhow, um, all the tragedies that I've suffered through, I'm still here. All the evil, wicked things that I've done, or I feel that I've done, I'm still here. I ask for forgiveness every day, not just for myself, but for my people and for my ancestors. I ask that one day the people that are meant to wake up, and those that are meant to cast themselves into the pit do. But I say this to you, my brothers. If the Chaldeans are who you seed from, when the Most High does rise up the Chaldeans, right? Not saying that he's going to rise you up to do something crazy. It would behoove you, just in case some of those things are endowed with extra ability, to get out of their way. You understand that? There's a lot to these prophecies that is going on. After I do a lot more work with these other things, I might break into my own little spiel about that, because I'm starting to see things that I didn't see before. You see, this has been an honor once again, my people. I say with the most sincere heart that I do love you so very much. There is no malice in my heart. There's not. If you hate me, I hate you. If you love me, I love you. How hard is that? It's very simple. I don't disobey that. I don't break that. Learning this. Patience is more than just a virtue. It is a tool and an asset. And patience might even be related to wisdom in some way. Trust me. It's, just on levels that we couldn't even understand as human beings. You know, as is compassion and love, uh, to be related to a concept like mercy. You know, with the distant relative as grace. But let me leave that there. You'll have a wonderful day, and happy Sabbath, if Saturday's even a real Sabbath.